Karen, going back to the previous game, Australia versus the All Blacks, Australia absolutely, as Rob pointed out, sort of All Blacks wiped the floor with them. Is this a case, I mean, we know the All Blacks class at the moment, but the Australians just not having the depth to match the All Blacks? And what does this mean for the tradition of Australian rugby, who've always managed to put out really competitive teams?
Yeah, but
considering, that they lost 3-0 to the English earlier this year.
Yeah, certainly a bit worrying if you are a Wallaby fan at the moment. They didn't have the greatest Super Rugby season either this year. They've had this policy of not really wanting to call back too many overseas-based players, but they did this time for this match. Called Matt Giteau, Ashley Cooper back amongst others. Giteau, he seems to be cursed a little bit when it comes to injuries. Yeah. He hobbled off in the Rugby World Cup final, I think after 9 or 10 minutes. He was off again this time with a broken ankle. After not much longer, I think his career is now pretty much over. They had quite a few injuries in that game. It certainly upset their rhythm a little bit. The New Zealand team is very good. I think we just need to remember that. I think every team would have struggled against them, home or away, in that match. They're also in a rebuilding phase, as they claim. They've lost six or seven.
A frightening thought.
Absolutely. They lost 6 or 7 key players: Dan Carter, Richie McCaw, Nanu, Conrad Smith, amongst others, Tony Woodcock, Kevin Mulama. That's about 1,000 caps of Test experience. Yet whoever falls in for them, just seems to fill in seamlessly, and it's just a well-oiled machine that just keeps rolling and rolling. I think Beauden Barrett is unbelievable at the moment. He can do no wrong. He's frighteningly quick. His kicking might need a bit of work, but he runs that show like nobody else at the moment. I think Elton Jantjies, for one, I think he came up against Beauden Barrett in the Super Rugby final and got a first-hand experience of what it's like to fly off at the highest level. And I think that's certainly where the gulf is. We look at Faf de Klerk. He was man of the match for the South Africa. He's sort of our standout player. He's saved us a few times in the last couple of tests. But when he comes up against Aaron Smith, Aaron Smith is certainly no worse than Faf de Klerk. And suddenly we don't have that advantage at number 9, and now we're sort of already behind the 8 ball a little bit, and we're gonna struggle in that aspect as well. So the Wallabies, I think they'll certainly bounce back. They're a proud nation. Michael Cheika, he's a proud coach. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's going to get that team, back, focused, and will certainly be better in the second match next weekend in New Zealand. The Bledisloe Cup, they've gone, I think, 14 years now without winning it. I certainly don't think
I certainly set their hands on it.
Don't think they're going to win it this time either. But I think they will be better. I don't think the All Blacks can possibly win by another 39 or whatever points it was. They've got a few injuries themselves as well. They've called in 5 new players. They've got some concussed players. Naholo out with a torn hamstring as well. Ryan Crotty's out. They've got some issues at hooker. So they're going to field a slightly different team as well as the Wallabies. It'll be interesting to see how many of those players are still out when the Springboks do come around to play both the Wallabies and the All Blacks. I think that's going to be the key this year. The Argentina test we've got at the moment are a nice warm-up, if you like, home and away. But the real tournament starts when we have to travel to Australasia and play both those teams. I think that's going to be a real gauge of Alistair Coetzee's tenure as coach. He's going to have the 5 easiest opening matches in charge that he could possibly have hoped for. I think the real key is going to be in those matches against Australia and New Zealand, both home and away, and then obviously the end of your tour when you've got to play England, Eddie Jones looming large. I think, as Coetzee, if we think it's bad at the moment, it can only get worse. I don't see how this team turns around their fortunes and their start of play and their game plan, in one more match against Argentina, and then suddenly becomes world beaters straight after that. But we'll have to see how that all pans out. But I'm a little bit pessimistic at the moment, if you like.